What's up everyone, Curtis here from Everything Entrepreneurial. In this episode, I'm speaking with Jayson Moran, business psychologist and coaching. That and more coming right up. Real people, real stories, real conversations. This is Everything Entrepreneurial, a podcast dedicated to entrepreneurship. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, this is a place for you to learn from the experts, hear inspiring stories and gain valuable insights to help you on your business go to the next level. So Jayson, thanks very much for coming on Everything Entrepreneurial. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thanks very much for having me first off, Curtis. Super to be here in this kind of really slick setup. It all looks amazing and great.
It's nice, yeah.
A little bit about myself. So I am a psychologist, and really what my focus is on helping entrepreneurs and professionals. And how I help them really, it's all about moving forward by getting the results that they need. And I tend to do that by helping them increase their effectiveness. So I help them increase their effectiveness by kind of focusing on three key things. So the first thing is their happiness and their well-being, and very much associated with that stress. And the reason I focus on happiness and well-being and stress is that, well, we tend to be much more confident, we tend to be much more effective, we tend to be much more motivated when we're in better form.
Yeah.
You know yourself, when your form is good, you can kind of pull off pretty much anything. When you're a bit down in dumps or you're not happy for some reason, then it can have really an impact on your professional life a lot as well. So we might ask questions or look at areas like, what are the kind of things that make you happy? Where are you in relation to those? So where are you in relation to them in your relationships, maybe in your professional life, maybe in your personal life? And how can we get you a little bit closer in order to get you, I suppose, swinging on good form again? The second area I tend to help people with is all about gaining clarity and getting organized. So in order to move forward with something, well, we have to know where it is that we're going.
Yeah.
So I suppose the practical application of that might be, do you have a method to make the big decisions? Do you have a method to problem solve? We might look at questions like, are your goals, are the things that you want, are they likely, are they in line with what's going to make you happy? Are they in line with what's really important to you? And, have we got a plan in place to get there? And is that plan going to motivate you and help you get there? Or is that plan actually part of the problem?
Yeah.
Third area then, is, I suppose, in order to move forward, things sometimes we got to overcome obstacles. And I suppose the kind of barriers or obstacles that I help people with, and usually around their performance or their productivity, are more psychological in nature. So things like your confidence, your motivation, even some emotional issues like anger management or behavior change. So anything really that's getting in the way from getting you where it is that you want to go.
Yeah.
So the tagline is, I help people get unstuck, unstressed, and clear.
Brilliant, yeah. And you help people in various ways. So you do a lot of one-to-one sessions, you do workshops. Could you talk us through different ways you help people and in group settings and what that looks like?
So I suppose three main areas or products. There's the one-to-one work. So depending on the type of client, but it's usually kind of when we start working together initially, we'll do a 6-session program. And usually really what that's about, I suppose it works in a couple of ways, but really there are conversations that help you gain insight. That insight in turn will lead to change through, I suppose, what you're saying, when we're looking at things in a slightly different way, when we change our perception of the situation, it tends to change our emotional reaction and our behavioral reaction. And as a result of that, then we tend to get much better results. So imagine if you're dealing with a situation, so something someone might come to me with is maybe they're not feeling particularly confident about something, so maybe it's public speaking at work.
Yeah.
Thing with something like confidence, there's kind of two main streams to it. There is, I suppose, your self-belief, which is often got to do with the internal narrative, the story you're telling yourself, whether about yourself or about other people or about the world in general. And so we might do a bit of work on, I suppose, making sure that narrative is helping you rather than hindering. And then the second element of confidence is competence. So we're not going to feel confident in something that we're not good at. So there's a skill development side of things. So, the second part of that might be kind of supporting and challenging someone and getting their skill level up.
Yeah.
So in terms of public speaking or in terms of interpersonal relations, say, for example, in terms of those kind of situations.
Would that be someone experiencing imposter syndrome? Is that the competence in them?
Imposter syndrome is a big buzzword. And it's funny, I'm kind of cautious around some of the buzzwords.
Yeah.
You know, every year or two,
changes,
especially in the corporate space, there'll be new, and imposter syndrome seemed to rise its head a lot during COVID for some reason. So, you know, I think people doubting themselves has, I'd say, probably always been there, but suddenly there's a label on it.
Yeah.
And so people, when they're struggling in a situation, they like to put a label on things, you know. And if that helps, great. But, you know, really that underlying a lot of the major work that's been done in confidence has been done 30, 40 years ago. And you know, I suppose sometimes people put labels on things to sell things, you know.
Yeah.
And so I'd always be wary of going, you know, is it imposter syndrome, or trying to think of another recent buzzword around that, like, you know, Taming Your Inner Gremlin by a guy called Rick Carson, amazing book on that idea. But again, that would have been a buzzword, you know, am I self-sabotaging, for example?
Right.
And you have to be careful in those situations because, you know, telling yourself you're self-sabotaging or looking at stuff and going, you know, well, there's this behavior, I'm self-sabotaging, there's something wrong with me, I suppose. When really a lot of the time it's just sometimes we're stuck where we have to deal with difficult situations, and people struggle with difficult situations. It's the nature of them, and that's okay. But labeling yourself and going, well, I'm self-sabotaging, there must be something wrong with me, or I have imposter syndrome, there must be something wrong with me.
Yeah.
That in itself can lead to, you know, I suppose getting stuck and getting tangled in things that sometimes, you know, sometimes the solution's a bit simpler, and maybe we just need to skill up.
Yeah.
Maybe we just need to get a little bit better. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe we're not confident, you know. So for example, if you had someone who was doing public speaking and they had to do a lot of podcasts or something like that, sometimes the only way to get confident in it is to do 4 or 5 podcasts.
Just do it.
And realize that you're going to feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. It's like an idea, key principle around this is, you know, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like, stop worrying about being uncomfortable. It's okay to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Feel it, go through it. It will subside as you expose yourself to the situation a bit more, you know.
Very good.
Yeah. And I think a lot of, in terms of something like imposter syndrome, I think why I'm going on about it is sometimes people worry about worrying, or sometimes people worry about having a particular emotion. So, you know, you might feel anxious about feeling anxious, or you might feel guilty about feeling angry. But the issue with that is, well, then you start to feel, maybe you feel anxious about feeling guilty about feeling angry, and it just gets
a nice little chain that goes on.
And, you know, so like a certain part of the work I often do with people is kind of getting them to see those patterns. And then as a result, untangling a bit and maybe going at the real problem rather than worrying about yourself.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm really interested in knowing why you chose to work with entrepreneurs and professionals. Like, what is it about these types of people? Like, where do you add value to them? Where do you see yourself adding value to them?
Why entrepreneurs? And, well, the professional side of things, I suppose, you know, I love working with really anyone who's struggling in my areas of interest. So, I see anyone progress. I like seeing anyone progress and move forward. The entrepreneur thing came from when I was a kid, and I grew up in a small local community, and there was a couple of people in the town that would have, I suppose, invested and built organizations and built businesses, and were very involved with things like the local youth club and local organizations and fundraising for charities, and they really helped build the community and build that society. And then, you know, I suppose when I look at that in a bigger way, I mean, like, I suppose how all our communities and societies are put together on one extent are businesses, and people providing products and services.
Yeah.
You know, I think they tie everything together. I suppose in the corporate world, you would have a lot of people who do what I do and supporting that, because I suppose there's a lot of money available, and you know, it's a big market and it's understandable.
Yeah.
But for me, I suppose, because entrepreneurs and small business owners and SME owners, I mean, they face the same challenges, and I think they're integral, but I don't think that support is necessarily out there as much.
Yeah. No, for sure. Certainly, especially in the business landscape, there's not a lot of help there. So that kind of leads us into like your workshops and stuff. So typically like a CEO or someone who runs a company, they want to look after their staff, and they'd possibly hire someone like you to come in and give a talk and help people work on things. Could you give us an example of a typical workshop you might provide for a company?
So, yeah, so I suppose the reasons people would get me in are a couple. One is, I suppose it's about retention, because people want to know that they can develop somewhere, that they're going to learn where they are. And so maybe that's because they want to forward their career, maybe move on in a few years. But if people don't feel that they can grow, it's a very deep kind of really thing to people, that they want to be competent, they want to get good at what they do, they want to progress, they want to do well.
Yeah.
And so I suppose a lot of the time when people get me in, it's kind of part of that process of, well, you can grow and develop here. Maybe you're getting things that you might not get in another company. I suppose that's often the why, and often it's because they want to help people develop. I mean, another thing we were doing quite recently was a workshop for leaders in a largest hospitality firm. And I suppose they wanted to give the benefit of what leaders in the corporate side of things would be getting. And so we did half day on motivation. And so like a deep dive on that in terms of, well, how do you motivate a staff member? And, the thing with a lot of industries now, the war for talent, difficult kind of questions. And, money helps motivate, don't get me wrong, but it's not the only thing. And I suppose that constant race of, if that's the only thing that you're offering, you're probably always going to get out of it. So if you can offer things like good growth and development, and
flexible hours,
and knowledge,
more time off, whatever it is,
that's definitely going to help. So I suppose that would be like the typical kind of engaging thing, where they want to develop their staff, where they want to help retain them as well, would be a big part of it. You know?
And just touching on motivation, specifically motivation for entrepreneurs, a lot of early stage businesses, like they have the aspiration of growing a successful business, but the money isn't there yet. So it's very hard to keep yourself motivated when you're building a business and the money isn't coming in what you like. From your own experience, or people that you've spoken with who are entrepreneurs or business owners, what helps them keep them motivated? Like, is there any tools or tricks that they can use to keep them on the road until they start seeing that success that they need to see?
I suppose I could have a formula for this and I can list it off, but just maybe to give a bit of context, so when you were starting off first, and I'm sure as with any business, especially when you're starting, you've got that whole period of, getting the first client, and that initial year or two was just very, very tough for everyone.
It was a tough slog, yeah.
What kept you going?
I think it was my desire to have a successful business one day, and I knew, even though I didn't have it then, that I knew I could achieve it. I could almost say I was entirely certain that it was going to happen. I didn't know how it was going to happen, I didn't know when, but I knew for certain that I would make something of this business that I'm currently in now. And it was like that. I just kept rocking and rolling, getting a few punches in the face, getting back up, it was hard work, but once you get your first foot in the door with someone, you do a good job. It's all about network and referral, and your business starts growing there, you get more and more work. But initially, when no one knows who you are and you don't have any kind of portfolio behind you, it's very tough to get started. And obviously I'm speaking in relation to a service business. I wouldn't really know about like a product based business,
But a lot of the psychology, I would argue, is the same. So it's that. So a couple of things there. One is the creation of positive feedback loop. So it's like you put in work and eventually you get that first line. So you get that reward. So it's a proof of concept.
Yeah.
So you understand that all the hard work you're putting in, well, it works.
Yeah.
And so that's, I suppose, the self-belief side of it. And that's very, very important. And it's very important to kind of be able to create small wins for yourself.
Yeah.
Not that, I suppose, get your first client, it's a big win actually, but that you kind of can sort of see that, because often you're doing a lot of work under, like, behind the scenes, the whole analogy of like a swan or a duck, they're kind of cruising along
underneath
on the front, and to everyone it's like, it doesn't look like you actually do that much, but underneath there's a million, you're you're going a million miles an hour, and you're trying a million different things, but that outside facade is quite smooth and calm, and you know exactly what I'm doing. And so it's very important that you are getting kind of positive feedback and loops of that. So to set up small wins. In terms of motivation, I mean, a good to hand formula is motivation is a function of your energy by your ability by importance. So break that down a little bit. Motivation is a function of your energy. So that's your physical energy and your mental energy. So your physical energy refers to your physical state. So, you know, if your health isn't good, if you're not exercising, if your diet is off, you're highly stressed, for example, can have a really bad effect on your motivation levels as well. If something physically is not right with you, then you're not going to be particularly motivated. So it's often, you know, like I'll go through kind of like a list of things often when I'm working with people, you know, just what might be getting in the way, you know. But, you know, if you're working 12, 14-hour days and you're working crazy long hours, you're not exercising, you're not eating properly for time, like you're not going to feel motivated unless those basic needs are met.
Right.
I suppose then in terms of needs, you've also got mental energy. So you've got like a well-being, let's say. And so if those needs aren't being met, you know, and everyone's got different priorities in terms of different needs, but, you know, common things that people at the early stage of a business can be missing might be, you know, fun. You know, are you actually getting out and having a bit of crack? And it's a very important need to meet. If you're not having fun, you're going to get very dull quite quickly. You know, connection with other people is a big one. You know, so if those well-being needs aren't being met, you're not going to feel particularly motivated. So that's the energy side of it. The second side, the next kind of, I suppose, element is that motivation is a function of ability, and that's kind of those confidence questions I was talking about. And like I said, so ability breaks down into your self-belief, that narrative you're telling yourself, but also your competence and your skills, because you're not going to feel motivated to do something if you don't feel that you're going to succeed. Why would you put in the effort? Why would you waste it? The third element then of, I suppose, that formula for motivation, so to speak, is importance. You're not going to do something unless you think it's important. And I suppose in terms of thinking around that, you can think of motivation as having two different types in a way. So you've got external and internal. External or extrinsic motivation is motivation that comes from outside of us. So these are the things in the environment that tend to motivate us. So we tend to be motivated by either reward or punishment. You know, we feel desire or we feel pain. We want to move towards something and move away from it. So in terms of the most common form of reward is money, the most common form of punishment is we worry about what other people think of us. So you've got this external motivation. I mean, a certain amount of what I would do with people initially, you know, if we're doing a program in terms of getting them motivated or helping them reach a particular goal, there's the accountability. They know they're going to come to talk to me every week or two. So part of that is, well, I better actually get some of these things done, because otherwise it's going to be a bit awkward if I'm talking to this guy, you know? And so, initially, but the problem with external motivation, the problem with rewards and punishments, as soon as you take them out of the way, your motivation goes down the tubes. So I'll give you an example of someone I worked with recently. Young entrepreneur, quite successful, let's just call it a successful business. I don't want to go into too much detail. But it was kind of at the point where it was working away on its own. He didn't really need to get involved in the day-to-day. He came to me because he's like, I'm not feeling motivated. I'm like, well, you don't need to be motivated about that. It's taking care of itself. So it's like that external pain of the business not going well is gone. So of course you're not. You know, why would you feel motivated to do something about it? So we started working on new goals for him and new projects, and you know, that's how we got it. The second end of that thing, so we've got external motivation and you've got internal motivation. And this is again one of the buzzwords at the minute. I suppose this is about your why. This is what's kind of driving at a deep level these kind of higher order needs. So very much associated with freedom, for example. You know, we tend to be very much motivated to have more freedom in our lives, more ability, power over our own lives, the ability to make our own decisions. That's why a lot of us work for ourselves. It's, you know, that's a very strong drive for entrepreneurs. The second element to that is relatedness. We're very intrinsically motivated to connect with other people and do good things for other people. You would be a prime example of that. I think a big part of why you do what you do because you like to see other people do well, and you like that connection, and you like that.
Yeah.
The third element of that then is autonomy, relatedness, and competence. We like to grow. We like to get better. We like to, And so if we can tie our goals, or if we're not feeling motivated in a situation, it's often because we don't have autonomy. We don't have control over outcomes. We don't have connection or relatedness within the situation, or we don't feel that we can grow or that we're getting anything from it. And so if those things aren't in place, we're not going to feel motivated. So it's usually one of those three elements: energy, ability, or importance. They break down into those six kind of something. So you can take motivation apart and probably put your finger on, if you're not feeling motivated, it's very possible
where
to
am
go,
I feeling? Oh, it's this one. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
In and around.
yeah.
Very good. Thanks very much for sharing that. For someone who helps a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, how do you help yourself, or what has helped you the most as a business owner, entrepreneur, in your own shoes?
I don't know. I'm possibly beyond help at this point, Curtis. How do I help myself? I try and listen to my own lessons, but not, sometimes easier said than done. So I'll often I'll try and work with different coaches, different supervisors. So like I would go through professional supervision as well. So just to make sure that I'm at the top of my game.
Yeah.
But different coaches, different supervisors, different people, sometimes from different fields. And, you're constantly doing a little bit of work on yourself, I suppose if I'm selling, I suppose the place and the structure to do some work on yourself, it's very important that I do that too. And so it's to constantly try to keep improving and keep things on top. And I suppose to try and listen to my own lessons around things like, don't be too hard on yourself. Again, sometimes it's easy to talk the talk, but can you walk the walk,
Yeah, for sure. And what has been the hardest obstacle to overcome since you've been self-employed or, running your own business?
I think the biggest part initially was getting a network. I finished college and I went to UCC. I did a master's in positive psychology and coaching psychology down there. Shout out to them if any of them are listening. David O'Sullivan, Zelda DiBiase, and Annalisa Setti will be three to mention. Amazing course down there. If you're ever interested in looking into something like positive psychology or coaching, great group of people. It's very cool. But when I came out of that and I came back up to Dublin, and I suppose I was a little bit lost in terms of I didn't know anyone who was doing exactly what I wanted to do. So I started figuring out the business side of things. I mean, I had this skill set around coaching, around positive psychology, and I just done a degree before that, and all this information and all this knowledge. But actually, the mechanics of sales, marketing, networking, how to go about a bit. I mean, that took me 5 years of kind of slog and making mistakes and, just
Cultivating those skills.
Cultivating the skills and the relationships, I'd say, as much as anything else, especially in something like this. I suppose in order to work with someone like me, there has to be a level of trust. So especially initially, it's just getting those initial referrals, doing those initial contracts and working with people and building up a reputation, because it's quite an abstract thing. I suppose there's a huge amount of trust in coming to work with someone like me. And so it took a lot of time to build those relationships, but also to explain what I do in a coherent way and in a way that people can kind of understand and get it. So all problems like that. But I'd say not having a tribe when I came out. And something I've kind of only recently got is a mentor. And that was probably something I could have done with very, very early. But I just found it very difficult to find one. So I suppose that would have been my biggest challenge.
What I've noticed with other business owners, entrepreneurs, when they're starting out, they find it very difficult to network. They imagine themselves walking into a room, 30 heads turning around, just looking at them, and they feel kind of like, I don't think it's like that at all. What has your experience been in these networking groups? Could you share maybe some groups that you're in, if it's to do with psychology and what that was like, or if you're in any business groups? It'd be just great insight for people to find out.
So I suppose in terms of the psychology and the coaching side, I'm actually just recently become co-chair of check out this for a mouthful, the Psychological Society of Ireland Special Interest Group in Coaching Psychology. So it's really, it's like a voluntary organisation, and where, I suppose the idea is we're the kind of voice in the community behind coaching psychologists in Ireland. And so I suppose that would have been one of the first groups, maybe a year after I finished the Masters, that I reached out to and joined, and some amazing connections and some amazing people. Again, if on the off chance they end up watching this, Lorna Lawless, Dr. Mary Collins, Jerry Dixon, like amazing people, and kind of really helped with, I suppose, that professional development side of things, and some serious operators. And they were great. And I suppose at that point I was looking for a tribe. I was looking for people who do what I do, and again, just to get an understanding of the business. And I suppose what I figured out after a while is no one wanted to do exactly what I wanted to do or how I wanted to do it, in terms of me being, in private practice completely. I mean, a lot of people will do similar things to what I do, but a lot of them will have a day job. They will have, and it'll be something they do a little bit on the side, or, you might have someone who's got a specialty and they'll train in coaching for a period of time, and it's kind of their side gig. But to do it 100%, where this is all you do, I mean, I just didn't know anyone who was doing it successfully. And so I suppose that's where I started. That's where the BNI and the networking side around that came in, that I decided I need to maybe understand the business world a little bit better and to figure out those things. And so I joined Business Networks Ireland, BNI Ireland, just about 18 months ago, I think. And that's been great, because what it's done is it's put me in a room with 20 to 30 other people who've built from the ground up small businesses, and there's a huge variety, solicitors, accountants, brand designer we had today actually had like a 10-minute presentation on what he does, but it just gives you a lot of experience in terms of like actually the day-to-day of going out there, identifying business, approaching business, getting it over the line, and all the other things that can go wrong as well. So it's
for sure, yeah. And you can always pick up the phone. You have these 20 or 30 individuals.
Yeah.
If you have a problem, pick up the phone. They'll help you solve it. It's great to be connected. Fantastic for business and for growth, for building relationships. It's been really, really good. But it's being able to depend on other people in the group, and they really do look out for you once they get to know, like, and trust you. Obviously, once you're in the group a while, they're on the lookout constantly for people who might need our services, that way. So it's been really, really good, and I look forward to doing more networking. So just in relation to like courses, I know you have done some courses in the past online. Are you doing any of those? Is there anything up and coming that people could be aware of?
Well, the last course I did, so we were doing it in person, and then COVID happened, and then we ran a version of it like a year into COVID. We moved everything online. That was the 10-week practical psychology course. So it was personal professional development, the psychology of happiness, emotional intelligence, behavior change, those things. And we're running it for the public. And to be honest, I would have hoped to maybe do that again. We're maybe looking at it again in September. And it's just been incredibly busy with a lot, I suppose, of my business to business stuff. And so in terms of the public courses, it's just been trying to find the time to kind of do it, and do it in a space and do it well. I suppose the other thing is I'd really want to do something in person again. Online is great, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of advantages to it. It also saves people traveling, etc. But there is something nice about being in a room with a group of people. I think there's a power in it. I think people can learn a lot from each other, and it's more likely to happen in an in-person space. And so a lot of it at the minute really is venues. So the two venues that I used to use for various reasons are just not available anymore in the city centre. And so it's finding a good venue that's reliable, that has all the bits and pieces that we need, has been a bit of a struggle. Hopefully maybe in September we'll look at getting that going again, and getting the word out there. It seems to be gathering a bit of momentum before COVID, and then I suppose the move out of COVID, funnily enough,
people want to be back out in the flesh, meeting people. There's a strong desire there.
And it's but it's a different thing, you know. So we have run a couple of one-day courses. We did the procrastination boot camp. So that's about, you know, if you're something that you're stuck on, you know, if you're procrastinating generally, or if you've got something in particular that you're procrastinating about. So we did a half day. We get very specific, and you know, we get you to the point of taking that vague idea and actually, you know, down to what's the first next thing that you're going to do about it. Another one that maybe I'll try run again in September a little bit, probably wait till after the summer, is we were doing a behavior change workshop. So it was called But I Don't Feel Like Doing It. And so, you know, it's all those common things like, you know, exercise, diet, any kind of behavior that you want to change. And again, we kind of take it from sort of an abstract, vague idea, but like we hammer it right down to that decision point to actually, am I going to do this right now or am I not? And people seem to love that as well. You know, so, but I suppose it's a challenge of the logistics, and also I suppose the marketing, that side of it. You know, it's a different beast, and I suppose it's one of the challenges that we all face is that, you know, I'd love to do a million things.
No.
You have to make decisions. You have to go, well, okay, I'm going to focus on this for a little while. So hopefully we'll get the public stuff up and running again around September.
Very good. That's exciting. So other than the public stuff, what does 2023 have in store for Jayson? Do you have any other grand plans, ideas, targets, milestones, anything like that you'd like to share?
I suppose there's a lot of speaking gigs coming up, which are great. A couple of different courses for a couple of different clients. Yeah, I suppose in terms of upcoming stuff that I want to share, I suppose I'm kind of holding my fire until we see what's going to happen with those new courses in September, and probably what we'll do at the beginning of the summer is solidify them and see what people want them, what they're after, and that'll probably be the big new thing.
Very good.
Yeah, and a couple of different programs then as well for the business side of things. So we're kind of putting together professional development programs, leadership development programs, and you know, formalizing that, and we'll start bringing that to business markets in as well.
That's fantastic. So if any entrepreneur or business owner wanted to reach out to you and do a one-to-one, or if they wanted to run a program in their business, where's the best place to find you online to reach out? And
my website is just jaysonmoran.com. So that's Jayson with a Y, JAYSON, MORAN.com. You know,
find you on LinkedIn.
Free. Yeah, I mean, the thing I do with anyone and everyone, regardless of whether it's a talk or workshop or somebody who wants to work one-to-one with me, I do, like, you know, half an hour of my time as a consultation. There's no charge, just to chat to see if I'm the best person to help. You know, and so like those kind of conversations, regardless of what the outcome is, I always find them interesting. And if I can't help you, I can probably find someone who can, you know. And so it's really nice to meet people in those conversations as well. So don't be shy about reaching out.
100%. Well, I just want to say thanks very much for coming on Everything Entrepreneurial. I really appreciate it, Jayson, and I hope you had a good time. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks a million. Cheers, Karen. It's nice one.
Kiss, mum.